Welcome to the US Kiss Vinyl Reference YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe and also follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
Welcome, folks. My name is Mike Stone, and I'm a big Kiss vinyl collector. And welcome to my channel, the US Kiss Vinyl Reference. I know that's a mouthful, but it is what it is. So I have about 650 or so records behind me here, and all but 10 or 12 of them are from the US, and each one is different from the one behind it. So we'll use this channel to talk about all the different variations that are known of, and might be interesting to some folks. Other folks just might not care, but we'll go on this ride together. So if you've got time, got nothing to lose, follow me. Today we will be talking about the debut, so stick around. All right, let's get into the first album. So as the name implies here on the channel, it's the US Kiss Vinyl Reference, and I'm going to be focusing on US issues of Kiss Vinyl. I am well aware that around the world there are countless issues and reissues, different countries and all of that, but I only collect US, so that's really all I have to show. So, I mean, I have 10, maybe 12 non-US records in my collection. So I'm going to do my best to go chronologically, like, you know, the first issue and then the subsequent reissues of the title. I don't know what order I'm going to do the titles in. I may just go down the line as they released them, and I may jump around here and there. I haven't decided on that yet, but we're going to start off the first installment with the first record. You know, sounds kind of fitting to me. You know, 50 years old this year, so we're going to start off with the promos, and here is the promo for the debut record. Take the guts out there. So you'll notice here on the jacket we have a pink promotional copy sticker. That's one of many markings for a promo. Usually a promotional copy will have a marking on the jacket and or the label. We'll get into that a little deeper as time goes, but for the debut here we have a promotional sticker. This is just you can find this on any Warner Brothers promotional copy. Other than that, it's a regular NB 9001 jacket. If you have just a regular first pressing of this without Kiss in Time, this jacket is the same as that one. It's just there's a promo sticker on this one. And you can see by the corner there, maybe. You can see that it says NB 9001 in the corner. And the promo copy came with just a plain white inner sleeve. I have seen them come with and without the label hole there. And then onto the vinyl, we have a white label. So I'll bring that up to you. You can see that it says promotion copy and not for sale on the left and right hand side of the label. And that's your promo label for the record. Not all promotional KISS records have promotional labels. There are some that were never released with a promotional label. All promotional KISS records should have a mark on the jacket. Now, there are exceptions to every rule, of course, but it could be, a pink sticker or promotional sticker. It could be a cut corner. It could be a saw mark. It could be a BB hole, or it could be a gold stamp. Now, I'm going to go on record as saying if there is just a record that has a cut corner on the jacket and no promo label, it really can't be considered a promo. So the reason behind that is anybody can grab a retail copy, whack the corner off, and they got a promo all of a sudden. So there's got to be some rules in there somewhere. The only KISS album that doesn't have an identifiable promo is The Elder, from the debut to Hot in the Shade. And we'll talk about that when we get there. But it's got to have either a mark on the jacket or a mark on the label to be a promo. So, and then we've got a perfect example of what I'm talking about here. So the consensus is that at some point they ran out of white labels to hand out for promotional copies. And there were still people requesting, radio stations or record stores or whatever for in-store play. So you can see this has a pink sticker on the opposite side of the white label promo. But when you pull it out, it's just a standard blue label. You can see there's no promotional text or anything on the label. So, as a collector, I have a hard time considering this a promo, even though I understand why it was handed out this way. They didn't want to print up a new batch of white label promos. I get it. But when you have a promotional copy that exists like this, it's hard for me to be sold on the fact that this is a promotional copy from a collector's perspective. So I would give considerably more for this than I would this. And I did give considerably more for that one than I did this one. So other than that, to me, this is just a first issue copy with a promotional sticker on the jacket. That's all it is to me. I came across it. It was cheap, and that's why it sits in my collection now. Was I ever going to pay $200-300 for this? No. I probably wouldn't have even been up to $75 for this. I found it considerably cheaper than that. So, all right. So we got the promotional stuff out the way. Now we're on to the first issue. We still have the NB9001 catalog number on the jacket. And this is the same blue label that I just showed you. If you'll notice down at the bottom, it says Casablanca Records Incorporated, manufactured and distributed by Warner Brothers Records Incorporated, made in USA. And then on the back, You'll notice that it starts off with Deuce instead of Kissing Time. And I'll show you, there's only 4 rings there. That's going to come into play here in a minute. So the first issue of this album did not have Kissing Time on it. That was added to subsequent reissues, which I will be able to go into more detail here in just a matter of seconds, as soon as I get my records shoved back in the jacket. And yes, there is the old debate of keeping records outside of the jacket to prevent ring wear and all this. And I have had these records, a lot of them in my collection for years. I have no ring wear that wasn't already there when I got them. The biggest killer to these record jackets is friction. So if you keep resealable sleeves on your jacket, and if you keep your records on a shelf similar to my CD shelf back behind me, where they're stored like this, as long as you don't pack them in tight, when you pull them out, there's not much friction. I use a record rack front facing, so there's little to no friction at all, and I don't get new ring wear on my records. So again, this is the first issue of the debut. It does not have Kissing Time. I will get into a reissue of the debut. And we'll notice right off the bat that there is a sticker up here. And it says, includes Kissing Time, Strutter, and Nothing to Lose, NB 9001. Okay. On the backtrack listing, there's still no Kissing Time listed. You will not find a NB 9001 jacket from the U.S. that has Kissing Time listed on it. You won't find one. Still have the white sleeve. We still have the label that mentions Warner Brothers at the bottom. We call that a blue label number 1 because that was the first blue label that was available on Casablanca. And here is side 2. You'll notice it starts off with Deuce. And if I tilt that up just right, you can see that there's 5 rings. So there's 5 tracks on the second side of the record. So what that means is, even though the label does not say it, that Kissing Time is on there, it starts off with Kissing Time. There's 5 tracks on the back. So this was a transitional copy. They were just pressing, wasn't paying attention to whether the labels matched up to what the plate actually had on it. So then you can find this in all combinations of Kissing Time on the label, not on the vinyl, not on the label, on the vinyl, not on the label or the vinyl, and on the label and on the vinyl. So luckily I have all of those transitions and I'll be able to show you. So here we got another copy with the sticker there above Paul. Just to show it's the same sticker. And we still have NB 9001 on the back. And now you can see that Kissing Time is listed on the label. As soon as my screen gets to it. There it is. And then if I tilt the record up, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 track rings. So Kissin' Time is listed on the label, but it is not on the vinyl. All right. And then we have one more with the sticker. Same sticker. Also NB9001 on the back. And then there's still Warner Brother text on the label. These blue labels are so hard for that camera to focus on. There we go. You see it's got Kissin' Time on the label. And then if I hold the record up, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 track rings. So Kissin' Time is on the back of this record. So there's your different transitional copies of NB9001. So we got the first issue without Kissin' Time. And then we start transitioning into the reissue that first adds Kissin' Time in various forms or another. All the way to the proper reissue that has Kissin' Time. So now we have a label change. Casablanca got out of its distributorship with Warner Brothers and is now an independent label. They reissued the debut album again, and now we have a different catalog number. You'll see that it's NBLP 7001. Still have a white sleeve on this one. And then when I show you the label, you'll notice that the white text at the bottom says manufactured and distributed by Casablanca Records Incorporated, made in USA. You'll notice there's nothing about Warner Brothers there. And then for a variation, you're going to notice that all the text here is black. And from here out, every copy of the debut will have Kissin' Time on it. So this is a mid to late 74 reissue of the first album. And one thing we're going to learn pretty quick here is that not all blue labels are the same. So, you know, there's a common misconception that if a Kiss album has a blue label, it's a first issue. Well, in the 70s, there's 3 different blue labels, and they were used at different time periods. So that's not necessarily true. We got a different variation of the second blue label, or blue label number 2. And this one happens to have an inner sleeve that says the image is getting clearer on the front. And then it's got a little advertisement on the back for other records in the catalog. So this is clearly later on because, you know, the inner sleeve has the debut and then Hotter Than Hell Dressed to Kill, and Alive. So that inner sleeve comes from a time period after Alive was released, obviously. So now you'll notice that there is silver text on this label, and you have the title and a logo above the spindle hole, and you'll notice that the tracks are center justified, as they call it, meaning, you know, there's the line justifying them goes down the center instead of left or to the right. If it was left justified, everything would line up down the left side. If it was right justified, everything would line up down the right. So you notice this one's kind of got everything centered. And this is still a Blue Label number 2. There's no mention of Warner Brothers. And I review these after I film it, and if I feel that, you know, me holding them up to the camera doesn't really do much good as far as being able to show the differences clearly, I've got scans of everything that I can drop in later. So now we got another variation of the second Blue Label. The jacket has not changed so far since we've gone to Warner Brothers, or lost Warner Brothers. Kissin' Time is on the track listing now. So any jacket you see with NBLP 7001 will have Kissin' Time printed on the back of the jacket. Any jacket that you see that says NB 9001 on the back from the US, you won't find Kissin' Time on the jacket. So we got another Blue Label number 2 here. You'll see that the title and the logo are above the hole. And you'll also see that everything lines up down the left-hand side. So that's left justified. So there's your variation. And then we have yet another Blue Label number 2 variation. And you can see that you got the title and the logo below the spindle hole. And there's no way to say, well, you know, the silver text was printed before the black text, or the one with the logo below the hole was printed before the one with the logo above the spindle hole. Casablanca basically gave these, they used several pressing plants for starters. And then they just basically gave these pressing plants blank labels and said, this is the information that needs to be on the labels, and the pressing plants are the ones that filled in all the text. So different pressing plants filled out the labels different. That's all there is to it. So that blue label number 2 ran from mid 74 up until late 75. Late 75, early 76. It was right there around December. And then it changed to a third blue label variation, which I'll show. The jacket still hasn't changed yet. It's still the same 7001 jacket. We got a different inner sleeve, so you might recognize that image from some Casablanca labels. That'll come later. And then there's an advertisement for some records on the back. And again, you've got the debut, you got Hotter Than Hell, you got Dress to Kill, and then you've got Alive. So Destroyer's not on here, so obviously this was before Destroyer was released. So this is a early to mid 76 reissue. And it looks the same, but you got to pay attention to the text down below. It says, manufactured and distributed by Casablanca Records Incorporated, 8255 Sunset Boulevard, Los Angeles, California, 90046, made in USA. So just as a little recap, you have your Blue Label 1, which has Warner Brothers on it. You have Blue Label number 2. It does not mention Warner Brothers, and it does not have a Sunset Boulevard address. And then you have a Blue Label number 3, which has a Sunset Boulevard address. So that's about the easiest way to distinguish between the three of them. And to my knowledge, there's only one variation for the debut on a third Blue Label. I have not been made aware of any variations with a Sunset Boulevard address on a Blue Label of the debut. So if you happen to have this one here, you got the Blue Label 3 knocked out for the debut. And then mid 76, the label changes again. And so with the inner sleeve, we have that Casablanca image again. This time it's on both sides. Come on, get in there. There we go. And some people will call this a desert label or a Casbah label or a tan label. We have different desert labels. We have different tan labels. We have different Casbah labels. So we got to narrow it down a little further. So notice here you have a desert. There's a fortress in the background, and you've got 3 camels. So the easiest way to remember this is calling it a camel label. You'll also notice that there's just a regular Casablanca logo at the top. So that comes to play when we get to the next label. But as far as the variation goes, you'll notice you've got the logo above the hole and the title below. So there's a variation for this camel label. And this ran, as I said, from mid 76 to mid 77. Don't mind the white devil in the background. He's checking the perimeter. Now he's posted up in front of the door to the room here, guarding me. So I am safe and I am secure. All right, the next camel label variation you'll notice that we have the logo and the title both below the spindle hole. So if that's something you're interested in trying to find, there's something for you to look after. And both the Blue Label 3 and the Camel Label, well, especially the Blue Label 3, wasn't in use for very long, so they should be rarer than they are. But I mean, some of these Camel labels are pretty tough to find. So, and now we're moving to a different label again. And actually, I'm going to hold off on that one. And I'm going to hold off on that one. All right. So we still have the same jacket. It's got the 7001 up in the corner. Now we have a Filmworks inner sleeve, Casablanca Record and Filmworks. We call it a Filmworks. And you'll notice that this one happens to be advertising the movie and the soundtrack to The Deep, which was a movie that Casablanca had a hand in. Not all Filmworks inner sleeves will have that advertisement on it, as you'll see here in a minute. But now we're going to what we call the Filmworks label. Now you'll notice it says Casablanca Record and Filmworks at the top. You got a fortress in the background, and then you've got a whole film crew in the foreground. So we call that the Filmworks label. Filmworks label number 1 to be exact, because this Filmworks label will be around for a little bit. And then notice again, you got the logo above the spindle hole and the title below. So there's your variation there. We've got a few different Filmworks label variations. And these were used from mid-77 to 1981. So there's quite a long period for this label. And then there'll be subcategories of this label later on down the road with other titles. But from 77 to 81, it was reissued here on the Filmworks label. And now we're going to jump ahead, still on a Filmworks 1 label, but we have a variation in the jacket. So we have just a plain Filmworks inner sleeve. And then this one is a variation that I haven't shown yet. It's got the title and the logo below the spindle hole. And then on the back of the jacket, there's a little number here in the lower right-hand corner. And we'll try to get the camera in on that. See, it's a 501. And that is a printing plant number for where the jacket was printed. The printing plant number started showing up on jackets around 1979, 1980. So that kind of puts this jacket as being printed with, judging by this Filmworks 1 label, between 1979 and 1981. And those are pretty tough to find with these printing plant numbers on them. So if you come across them and they're relatively cheap, it's not a bad thing to go ahead and pick them up. So there's that 79 to 81 reissue. And then we have yet another variation to show. Both label and jacket here. Got the same plain Filmworks inner sleeve. And these are the same image on both sides. And as soon as my camera picks up on that a little bit, you'll notice that the title is above the spindle hole and the logo is to the right of the spindle hole. Just look straight to the right. It's kind of hidden by that camera crew image, but it's there. So there's a third variation. And this variation here, and I'm pretty sure just about every copy that I've seen with this particular label variation, when you play the record, it has a live version of Nothing to Lose from Alive. So that was just somebody switched the tapes when they went to redo the plates for this reissue. And then the variation on the back of the jacket is another plant number. And I'm pretty sure I'm not going to get this to show up. But right there is a very faint 206, which I'll drop an image in here so you'd be able to see that. So now, with the Filmworks labels and these variations on the jacket, I have seen them come in any combination. So any label can come with any jacket, whether it has a 206, a 501, or no printing plant number at all. So I've seen them come all ways. So there's not a set one has to come with this one and so on. So now we're going to touch up on some Record Club copies before we get into the polygram years. So this is a Columbia House Record Club copy. Columbia House, unfortunately, in the makeup era, was not good at marking the vinyl like they were the cassettes and 8-tracks. Usually the cassettes had markings on the cassettes and maybe the catalog number was a little different. On the records in the 70s, they didn't do that. But there is a really hard to see Columbia House, or CRC as we call it. And it's going to be hard for me to show it to you because it's right there on the dadgum spine. Just a white CRC printed. And I'll drop an image in there. And like I said, on the label of the record, there's nothing there. It's just a title and logo below the spindle hole that I showed earlier. So these were pressed. Casablanca used a few different Columbia pressing facilities. So I'd say Columbia probably in their contract said, hey, we get to hold back so many for our record club. That's just my guess on it. But that's one way that CRCs were marked, by being printed somewhere on the jacket. Not all were on the spine. Not all titles had it on the spine. Some titles have CRC printed on the back. I have not seen a debut with a printed CRC on the back. However, there is another way that Columbia House marked their jacket, and that's that little white CRC sticker. And these stickers can be found from the debut to Dynasty. And this is just a regular FilmWorks label. It's actually the exact same label I just showed on my last Columbia House one, so I'm not going to pull it out. And then we have RCA, which is another record club. RCA was a lot better about marking their stuff. So on the back of the jacket here, you have manufactured by RCA Music Service, Indianapolis, Indiana, under license, and then it gives the license number. And then when you pull out the record, on the label, it's got the RCA information at the top, and then the license number is at the very bottom. So RCA was a lot better about marking their stuff than Columbia House was back then. So some people don't necessarily go all in collecting record clubs, but those people will grab RCAs because there's a notable difference from just a run-of-the-mill retail copy that might have CRC printed on the jacket somewhere. And then we have another RCA variation. It's kind of an error copy. So RCA got their licenses around 1977 with the release of Love Gun. You can see that one's got the license number on the bottom. And you can see that there's a Love Gun label here. And if you zoom in on the tracks, that is the debut. And this is an error because later on down the road, when I show the Love Gun RCA version, all of the RCA information is off here to the side. So on this particular one, the debut, the RCA information is all written up here, like on the last one that I showed you. And it's covered up by the Love Gun image of the band. So they did not mean to use this label. And you can find the debut and Destroyer like this. So this is a really tough copy to find. It can be fairly expensive when you do find it. And it doesn't extend to Kiss. There have been a couple of Donna Summer LPs that have popped up on eBay over the last few years that had that Love Gun label on it. I can't remember the LP off the top of my head. I want to say it was something like Yesterday and Today or something like that. But so yeah, there's a variation to look out for sure. So now we're done with the record clubs, and Polygram had a big stake in Casablanca in the late 70s, and by the early 80s, Polygram started reissuing the catalog to recoup some of their spend on buying the company. And there are two distinct Polygram reissue series. So everybody knows about the one with the printed barcodes on them. There's actually one before that, and it looks like just a regular jacket. And you'll notice that it'll either have like a UPC sticker on the jacket, or if it doesn't have a sticker, it'll have that printing plant number, which we'll see if I can't get that to focus in there. There we go. See that 501 there above MBLP 7001? So you got the 501 printing plant number on the back of the jacket. And then at first, this looks like just a regular FilmWorks label. But you'll notice the text down at the bottom says manufactured and marketed by Polygram Records Incorporated, 810 7th Avenue, New York, New York, 10019. And then at the top of that text, you'll see a small 5.3. So that 5.3 is a pressing plant number. So you can identify where the records were pressed by that number. So this is a reissue. The last one that you can find that is similar to this, that has a printing plant number on the back of the jacket and a Polygram label, is Creatures of the Night. So basically it's a second pressing for Creatures of the Night. So we know the ones with the printed barcodes on the jacket started around 1985. So that gives you a window of 1983 to 1984. And we call this a FilmWorks 2. Like I said, it'll have either a UPC sticker or it'll have that printing plant number somewhere on the jacket. Most of them are in this upper corner here, but not all. And not all are 501. So some people mistakenly call this series 501s. Well, they don't all have 501 on them. So, but yeah, that's the main thing to look for, is a Polygram FilmWorks label with a pressing plant number. And well, not all have a pressing plant number, but it's got to have a Polygram address. Sorry for the confusion. And then a UPC sticker or the printing plant number. Sometimes that UPC sticker covers up the printing plant number. So FilmWorks 2 series from 1983 to 1984. You can find Kiss, Hotter Than Hell, Dressed to Kill, Alive, Destroyer, Rock and Roll Over, Love Gun, Alive 2, Double Platinum. A side note on Double Platinum, there will not be a printing plant number on the jacket. It will be a shiny jacket with Polygram labels. Some of them you can find with a UPC sticker. All 4 solo albums you can find in this series. Dynasty, Unmasked, no music from The Elder has been shown with the FilmWorks label from the US. And then Creatures of the Night. So that's pretty much almost the whole back catalog. So you can consider that a series. And it's a very tough series to complete. I know a few of us that have completed the series over the years, but there ain't many of us. So now we move on to the next Polygram series, and this is the one that everybody knows about. This has the printed UPC barcode on the back of the jacket. And the label will look pretty close to the same. And they come with these cheap plastic inner sleeves. Label looks pretty much the same. Some of them will have different runouts that specify that it was mastered at True Tone and give a date on it. Some of them will have the new Polygram catalog number. Some won't. This one, the debut, still has the old NBLP Casablanca number. It doesn't have the 422 Polygram catalog number on it. So this one is considerably easier to complete than the series from 1983 to 1984. But I mean, it still takes a little bit of time and patience to complete it. And these were made on the cheap. any Polygram reissue series. There's no inserts or nothing like that. Like I said, this one has just a cheap plastic inner sleeve. It's just another attempt to recoup what they spent on buying the company. So, and all of these Polygram reissues will have the live version of Nothing to Lose pressed onto the record. And that was due to just somebody switching the tapes. It had nothing to do with not wanting to pay royalties to a session musician. He got a flat fee up front and they was done with him. And that printed barcode series there ran from 1985 to 1990 about. So then throughout the 90s, vinyl was dead. The CD was king. And then came along this big old box set called Kisteria, and they reissued the entire back catalog. And they wanted to get as close to the original LP pressings as possible with the packaging, the artwork, the inserts, the labels. So we kind of call these 2014 pressings because that's when Kisteria was released. So here we have the front of the jacket for the 2014. You'll notice there's a little UPC down here on the back. And then you've got a Mercury logo and the UME logo. Because Universal was the one that owned everything at this point. And then it's on 180 gram vinyl, and it got reissued with a blue label. So there's your 2014 reissues. Most of these you can buy on their own, or you got them with Kisteria. And then the last reissue from the U.S. for the debut was from 2019, I believe, off the top of my head. I kind of suck with the dates. But they basically repurposed the 2014 jackets. And then on the shrink wrap, they had a limited edition UPC sticker that covered up the barcode. I don't keep shrink wrap, so I peeled the sticker off and I put it on the barcode. And this used the same label as the 2014. They just put it on colored vinyl. Now, what this ended up being as opposed to what it was supposed to be is way different, and I'm not going to get into that whole thing. It was a disappointment. That's all I can really say about it. But that's the last U.S. vinyl reissue of the debut. So as you can see, there are variations galore of these titles. Not all are the same. So some variations are harder to find than others. Some labels are harder to find than others. So, just because you see one sell on eBay for $100, and you think, hey, I've got a copy of that. Well, it doesn't necessarily mean that you've got a $100 record. So, it all comes down to the variation. And then, since I'm a vinyl page and a vinyl collector and all that, 45s are also vinyl, so I also collect 45s, and I'll show the 45s for these releases as well. So let me get them all out here one at a time. So the first first 45 is Nothing to Lose. Comes in a white sleeve. Now this here is the promotional copy. As you can see, that side, if you look at the left-hand side of the label, right, the right-hand side of the label, I'm sorry, it says mono. And then we've got Nothing to Lose on the back side too, and you'll notice it says stereo on the right-hand side, and then it says promotion and not for sale. So there's your promotional copy of the 45. It came in a regular white sleeve. Many non-U.S. countries use picture sleeves for KISS 45s. To my knowledge, no country has any picture sleeves for 45s from the first album. But back to the U.S., we missed out on a lot of picture sleeves. Most of the U.S. 45s do not have picture sleeves. So there's Nothing to Lose, the promotional copy. Mirroring the LP label, this mentions Warner Brothers. And then we have a stock copy of Nothing to Lose, also in a white sleeve. And there's the A-side label. And you'll note on the back, the B-side is Love Theme from KISS. Still on that label with Warner Brothers mention. These first three 45s from the debut album did not get any reissues during the 70s. I'm about to show a reissue here from the singles box set that was released in 2012. That singles box set reissued all of the U.S. singles from the debut to Creatures of the Night. So this is the first one in that set. This is a white cardboard sleeve, whereas the two that I showed was paper. And then it's on a blue label. Love Theme from KISS on the back. And these singles were not available by themselves at retail. They were only part of the box set. So if you bought one by itself, you bought it from somebody who got the box set and stripped it out. So there's Nothing to Lose. And then the next single is Kissin' Time. And we have some variation on that one. First things first, we'll show the promotional copy. There. Well, there, you'll notice it says mono, and then the upper, it goes left to right, it says promotion and not for sale. And then you have Kissin' Time again, and you'll notice it says stereo. So there's your promotional copy. We have a few variations of the stock copy. still on that blue label with the Warner Brothers address. All right. So there's the A side, Kissin' Time. You'll notice there's a gap but on the left-hand side of the label between the Kiss logo and produced by Kenny Kerner and Richie Wise. And you'll notice that the running time on the right side of the label is pretty large. Okay, and then there's the B side, Nothing to Lose. Don't know why they couldn't have used a different B-side since Nothing to Lose was already released as a single, but that's just how they did it. All right, we got another variation for Kissin' Time. Now you'll notice on the left-hand side of the label, it does not have a gap between the Kiss logo and produced by Kenny Kerner and Richie Wise, but the running time is still pretty large. Then there's the Nothing to Lose side. And yet another variation of Kissin' Time. All right. If you notice, the running time is considerably smaller on the right-hand side of the label. And there's the B-side with Nothing to Lose. And then we have the reissue from the singles box set. It's reissued on the blue label. And then the next one is Strutter. Here's the promotional copy for Strutter. Note that it says mono on the right side, and then you've got promotion and not for sale up above. Promotion and not for sale up above, and it says stereo on the right side. Here's a promotional copy. And then for the stock copy, there are variations. Unfortunately, I only have one, but I have good pictures of the other variation that I can drop in here. So there's Strutter on that blue label one. And then on this side, there's 100,000 Years. And then there's a variation that the 100,000 is missing a 0, which I'll drop in right here. And yeah, I'm still missing that one, unfortunately. I just haven't really had a good chance to pull the trigger on it, so it'll happen someday. I mean, I don't come across it very often, but I do come across it. So, and then we've got the singles box set version. So there's the A-side label. And then there's the B-side label. So that is the debut album in 45s. And there's a bunch of them. We'll go through each album, and some of them might be combined because there's only a few variations, but where there's applicable, I'll throw in the 45s and show everything that I got. So I appreciate you tuning in to this first installment, and let's see where the other installments take us. Thank you very much.